The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky, glittering like tiny diamonds scattered across black velvet. In the distance, a massive shadow moved slowly, its shape impossible to miss, a colossal ship drifting like a wounded leviathan. It was not just any ship. It was ancient, a relic from a time long before most of the galaxy's civilizations had formed. The hull was scratched and scarred, and strange lights flickered along its surface, warning of failing systems inside. Inside the ship, the alien crew moved in hurried, anxious steps. Engineers scurried between broken consoles, their multiple limbs trembling with panic. The ship groaned, a deep, echoing sound that made even the toughest crew feel uneasy. Systems blinked red, alarms screamed, and every effort to stabilize the engines failed. This was no ordinary malfunction. The ship itself seemed sick, almost alive as if it felt pain. "We can't hold it together much longer," shouted one of the alien engineers, his voice strained in its guttural, clicking language. "The energy drain is too high. It's eating itself." Another alien stepped forward, its eyes wide. "Then we abandon it. We cannot repair it. We have no tools, no way to fix whatever is inside." Panic rippled through the crew. Abandoning the ship was unthinkable. This vessel was more than a ship. It was a fortress, a home, and a symbol of their civilization's pride. Losing it would be like losing a living member of their society. Yet, as the hull trembled and the engines groaned, hope seemed almost gone. Then a small message arrived through the comms system. It was simple, short, and almost unbelievable. "We can help. Humans, mechanics. Will arrive soon." The alien leaders stared at the message in disbelief. "Humans?" one hissed. "They are primitive. How can they repair this? They do not even understand basic energy flow like we do." But desperation overcame doubt. Within days, a small human crew arrived, piloting their tiny shuttles toward the massive ship. Compared to the vessel, the humans looked like insects crawling on a mountain. The aliens watched with mixed feelings: curiosity, skepticism, and perhaps a hint of fear. The human team disembarked, carrying tools unlike any the aliens had ever seen. There were devices that seemed simple but worked in ways no alien technology did. They touched panels with gloved hands, opened access panels with small wrenches, and observed the failing systems with quiet, intense focus. The lead human mechanic, a tall, wiry man with short hair and steady eyes, moved slowly through the corridors, touching wires and conduits. The aliens flinched at every touch, expecting sparks or explosions, but nothing happened. The human smiled faintly and murmured to himself, Interesting. That's not right." He knelt beside a conduit and traced the energy flow with a small handheld device. The readings blinked furiously, showing strange disruptions. "These aren't just failures," he said. "Something's draining the energy from inside." The alien engineers leaned closer. Inside, what could drain the engines from within? The human's eyes narrowed. "Parasites." The aliens froze. The word was alien to them, but the human's tone carried certainty. He pointed to the walls of the engine room. "See those black threads moving along the conduits? Those aren't wires, they're biological, living. They feed on the ship's energy." Some of the aliens stepped back, disgusted. The idea that their beloved ship was being eaten alive by living organisms was horrifying. "But how can we remove them?" one whispered. The human smiled faintly. "We will, but we have to understand them first. They adapt fast. We need to be smarter than they are." Over the next few hours, the humans examined the parasites closely. They touched them, prodded them, and studied how they moved. The aliens could hardly watch. They were terrified the humans might get hurt. But the humans were careful, patient, and methodical. One human, a young woman in the crew, spoke up. "They respond to energy pulses. If we create the right signals, we can lure them away from the core systems." The lead mechanic nodded. "Yes. And if we do it right, we can remove them without killing the ship." The aliens blinked in surprise. "Without killing the ship?" one said. Impossible. These creatures are part of it. They've been feeding on it for centuries. Removal would destroy everything. The human shook his head. Not if you understand the balance. The ship can survive. It's resilient. It's alive. But alive things can be healed if you know how. As the humans worked, the ship groaned again, louder this time. The parasites sensed the intrusion and reacted. Black threads scuttled along walls, reached out and tried to latch onto anything moving. Some even attacked the humans' tools. The aliens gasped. "They're fighting back," one cried, but the humans didn't flinch. One of them carefully cut a thread that tried to latch onto a console, while another redirected the energy flow to confuse the parasites. They worked in harmony, their calm logic guiding each movement. The alien engineers began to realize something. Humans weren't strong, at least not in the way they were, but their minds worked differently. They could improvise, adapt, and solve problems no one else could. One of the aliens muttered quietly to another, They think like the ship. They understand life in ways we do not." Hours passed. The humans continued their meticulous inspection, tracing the parasites' pathways through the ship. They found clusters in the engine core, feeding directly on the power conduits. The parasites pulsed, alive with energy, and it was clear that a careless move could trigger disaster. "Core parasites are heavily clustered," the lead human said. "We can't remove them all at once. It will destabilize the ship." The aliens whispered among themselves, fearful. "How can these tiny beings manage something we couldn't handle with 100 engineers?" The human turned, calm and confident. "We have something you don't: curiosity, patience, and courage." The aliens stared at him. Curiosity and patience, yes, but courage. The humans were putting themselves in danger willingly, knowing the parasites could harm them. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Suddenly, the ship groaned violently. Alarms blared and the lights flickered. One of the alien engineers screamed, "It's collapsing." "We must abandon it." The lead human shook his head. "No, not yet, we're close. The parasites are reacting because we're near the central node. If we can reach it, we can stabilize the ship." The aliens hesitated, fear in their eyes, but the humans moved forward undeterred. They crawled through narrow tunnels filled with twitching black threads, carefully removing obstacles and studying the energy pulses. As they reached the core engine room, the humans paused. The sight was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The parasites had formed a massive, pulsating network wrapping around conduits and engine blocks. The ship groaned as if protesting their intrusion. The lead human stepped forward, tools in hand. "This is it," he whispered. "The heart of the problem. We remove this and the ship lives. We hesitate and it dies." The aliens held their breath. No one moved. Every flicker of the parasite network seemed alive, aware, and watching. The tension was almost unbearable. The lead human smiled faintly. "Don't worry, we've got this. Humanity always finds a way." For a moment there was silence, broken only by the low, painful groan of the ancient ship. And then, with careful precision, the human mechanic began to work, reaching into the parasite-infested heart of the engine. The aliens could only watch in awe. They had called for help, expecting little. But what they were seeing, humans calm, fearless, and intelligent, was something they had never imagined. The ship shuddered. Black threads twitched and pulled back, sensing the humans' intent. And as the mechanic's hands worked deftly, carefully, the first parasites were removed. The aliens gasped. The ship groaned less. Lights steadied, if only slightly. And in that moment, every alien realized something profound. Humans were not fragile. Humans were dangerous in the best possible way. They were problem solvers, survivors, and perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy had underestimated them for too long. The lead human looked up from his work, sweat on his brow, and whispered almost to himself, "One step at a time, one step at a time." Outside the massive hull, the stars shone quietly. But inside, a silent battle had begun. A battle between life and parasite, between despair and hope. And in the middle of it, a human mechanic was about to prove that even the greatest giant could be saved by the smallest hands, if those hands knew exactly what to do. The ship shuddered violently, a deep, painful groan echoing through its vast corridors. The alien crew clung to rails and consoles, their multiple limbs trembling. Every flicker of light seemed like a heartbeat in distress. The humans had removed the first wave of parasites, and for a brief moment there was hope, but that hope was fragile. The parasites were intelligent. They reacted, pulling back from the humans' tools and retreating into the deeper conduits of the ship. The aliens whispered among themselves, fear in their voices. They adapt too quickly, one said. Every time we remove one, another appears. They are too clever. The lead human mechanic crouched beside a junction, studying the movement of a single black thread. It wriggled, almost as if aware of his presence. He traced its path with a small energy scanner. "These things aren't random," he murmured. "They have a pattern, they're protecting something, the core. If we disrupt the core too soon, the ship could collapse." An alien engineer watched, wide-eyed. "Core, you mean the heart of the ship?" The human nodded. "Exactly, but we're not destroying it. We just need to guide the parasites away carefully without hurting the ship itself." Another human, a woman with short, sharp hair, spoke up. "I've mapped their energy signatures. If we use a pulsed signal here, they'll retreat from the conduits. Slowly, we can isolate them." The aliens gasped. "You mean you can control them?" one asked. The mechanic shook his head. "Not control, influence. They are alive, they have instincts. We can use that to our advantage." The aliens couldn't understand how someone so small could tame something so massive and dangerous. But the humans were calm. That calmness alone was contagious. Slowly, the alien engineers began to follow their lead, handing over tools and giving space. Hours passed in tense, methodical work. The humans crawled along narrow conduits, guiding the parasites with gentle energy pulses and carefully removing them from critical systems. Each parasite that was removed seemed to scream, a sharp, high-pitched vibration that made the ship's walls hum. Even the aliens flinched. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered again. A massive section of the engineering hull groaned and cracked. Sparks flew and alarms blared. One of the alien engineers shouted, "They're fighting back, they are resisting." The humans didn't flinch. The lead mechanic quickly assessed the situation. "It's a defensive reaction. They know we're nearing the core. Stay calm, move slowly. We can't panic." Another group of parasites slithered along the conduits, sensing the humans' energy. They lashed out, trying to cling to metal surfaces and sabotage the humans' tools. One human narrowly avoided being struck by a writhing tendril, pulling back just in time. "Keep going," the lead mechanic yelled. "We're close." The aliens watched in awe as humans worked in ways they had never imagined. Their tools were simple by alien standards, yet their approach, using patience, observation, and instinct, was incredibly effective. Where alien engineers would have panicked or relied on brute force, the humans used precision and cleverness. A particularly tense moment came when a large cluster of parasites blocked access to a vital engine conduit. The humans paused, assessing the cluster carefully. "We can't remove them all at once," the woman said. "If we do, the ship could destabilize. We need a gradual approach, step by step." The lead mechanic nodded. "Exactly. We isolate one cluster, guide them away, and stabilize. Then the next. The ship is resilient, but it's delicate right now. One mistake and it could all go wrong." The aliens murmured among themselves, astonished. "These humans, they think differently. They are fearless," one whispered, "and clever, more clever than we imagined." Time dragged as the humans worked. They crawled through the ship's belly, through cramped corridors filled with writhing parasites. Sparks flew, conduits hissed, and the ship groaned in pain. But the humans continued, methodically guiding parasites into containment fields and carefully cutting their energy links. At one point, a parasite lunged toward the mechanic's tool. He twisted quickly, dodging it, and whispered, "Easy, easy, just stay calm." The alien engineers flinched. They had never seen beings so small face such danger without fear. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently again. Alarms blared as another section of the hull threatened to collapse. A human engineer shouted, "Move! The core is destabilizing." The lead mechanic acted instantly. He guided the humans to a secure panel and used a temporary energy diversion to stabilize the conduit. Sparks flew and black tendrils recoiled from the energy pulse. Slowly, the ship's groaning lessened. The aliens watched in stunned silence. The humans had saved that section of the ship without any advanced alien technology, just skill, instinct, and courage. But the danger was far from over. The lead mechanic pointed to the deepest part of the engine room. That's where the core parasites are, the cluster controlling the others. If we don't handle that carefully, all our work could be wasted. And if they attack the core directly, the ship dies. The aliens gasped. The idea that the humans would confront the parasite core directly was terrifying. Many would have fled, but the humans did not hesitate. "We can do this," the mechanic said calmly. "We've come this far." One step at a time. The crew approached the core, moving slowly, using every tool and strategy they had developed. The parasites sensed their approach and responded violently. Black threads wriggled, some snapping at the humans, others trying to connect deeper into the ship systems. "Steady," the mechanic whispered. "We can't rush. One step at a time." The woman engineer guided a cluster into a containment field, carefully isolating it from the main system. Another human adjusted energy pulses to confuse the parasites, keeping them from regrouping. The aliens were speechless. They had never seen beings so small face such overwhelming danger with such calm focus. Their minds were sharp, their movements precise, and their courage unwavering. Hours passed. Slowly, the humans made progress. They guided the parasites away from critical conduits, removed clusters, and stabilized sections of the ship. The core remained, massive and pulsating, but the path to it was clearer. Then the ship shuddered again, louder this time, almost as if it could sense the humans' plan. Sparks flew from the walls, alarms screamed, and the black tendrils writhed violently. The lead mechanic took a deep breath. "We're close. One final push and we can isolate the core." A massive parasite lunged from the core, writhing and snapping, trying to block access. One human dodged, using a pulse tool to push it back. Another carefully guided smaller clusters into containment. The aliens watched in awe. They had called for help, expecting humans to be clever, maybe brave. But this was beyond anything they imagined. Humans were fearless, adaptable, and relentless. Finally, a clear path to the core opened. The humans paused, studying the pulsating mass. It was massive, alive, and aware. The lead mechanic knelt beside it, tools in hand, and whispered, "This is it, the heart of the problem. One wrong move and it all ends. But we can do this. We have to." The aliens held their breath. The humans moved carefully, guiding tendrils away, cutting energy links precisely, and avoiding damage to the ship. Sparks flew, the core pulsed violently, and the ship groaned in protest. But the humans did not falter. Step by step, cluster by cluster, they made progress. Slowly, the core's defenses weakened, the parasites retreating into isolated sections. One alien engineer whispered in disbelief, They are saving the ship, by themselves. No advanced tools, no massive engines, just humans." The lead mechanic looked up briefly, sweat on his brow, and said, "Almost there, one more step and the core is isolated. Then we can start removing it safely." Outside the massive hull, the stars glimmered silently. Inside, a battle of life and intelligence raged. The humans had faced unimaginable danger and were proving, once again, that they were capable of things no one else could do. The ship groaned less now, its systems stabilizing slowly. The parasites, sensing their dominance waning, thrashed violently but could not resist the humans' precise control. The aliens finally understood. Humans were not fragile. They were not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and fearless. And in the face of a dying giant, their minds and courage were the ship's last hope. The lead mechanic whispered almost to himself, "One step at a time, always one step at a time." The core was still there, pulsating, dangerous, alive. But the humans had reached it. The real challenge, the battle for the heart of the ship, was about to begin. And the aliens knew, with a mix of fear and awe, that the humans would not fail. The engine room was silent, except for the deep, steady pulse of the ship's heart. The pulsating core glowed dimly, wrapped in a writhing network of black tendrils. Every movement of the parasites seemed deliberate, intelligent, aware. The air was heavy with tension, the metallic scent of the ship mingling with the faint hum of its failing systems. The lead human mechanic crouched at the edge of the core chamber. Sweat ran down his face, but his eyes were calm, sharp, and focused. Around him, his crew moved with quiet precision, guiding smaller clusters of parasites into containment fields and stabilizing conduits. The aliens stayed back, wide-eyed and trembling, watching the humans work as if witnessing a miracle. "This is it," the mechanic whispered. "The heart of the problem. If we misstep, the entire ship dies. One wrong move and everything collapses." A young human engineer adjusted a pulse tool, carefully sending a rhythmic signal along one of the conduits. The nearest tendrils twitched, recoiling slightly, but the core remained alert, pulsating with violent energy. "Core is responsive," she said. "It knows we're here." "It's aware," the lead mechanic nodded. "Good. That means we can influence it, but we have to be careful. It's fragile, but it's also dangerous." The aliens whispered nervously among themselves. They had heard of humans' ingenuity, but now they were seeing it firsthand. Small, fragile-looking beings facing a monstrous living core with tools no larger than their hands, and yet somehow the humans were in control. "Step carefully," the mechanic ordered. "One move at a time. Observe before acting. Predict before touching. That's the only way." He reached out with a specialized cutting tool, designed not to harm the ship but to sever the parasite links precisely. The tendrils reacted instantly, twitching violently, some lashing out toward the humans. Sparks flew, and the aliens flinched. One tendril snatched a loose tool from the floor, sending it spinning across the chamber. "Easy," the mechanic murmured. "Stay calm. They're strong, but not stronger than us." He took a deep breath and guided the first cluster away from the core. The parasites hissed and thrashed but were slowly isolated by the energy pulses the humans had set. The aliens watched, mouths open, as humans moved like dancers in perfect harmony with danger. "This is incredible," one alien muttered. "They face death and they do not falter." "They are fearless." Hours passed. The humans worked tirelessly, moving cluster by cluster, cutting the energy links, isolating tendrils and stabilizing the core. The ship groaned occasionally, its massive frame trembling as if reacting to the parasites' distress. Sparks flew, conduits hissed, and some sections of the floor buckled slightly under the strain. At one point, a massive tendril lunged toward the lead mechanic. He twisted just in time, dodging the strike, and whispered, "Focus, one step at a time." Another human sent a precise pulse through the nearby conduits, forcing the tendril back. The aliens gasped. They had never seen such bravery. Their own engineers would have frozen, yet the humans moved with calm confidence, using intelligence and skill rather than raw strength. Suddenly, the ship groaned louder than ever. The tendrils wrapped tighter around the core, pulsing violently. A deep vibration filled the room and alarms screamed. "They're resisting," the mechanic said, his voice calm but firm. "The core knows we're trying to remove it. It's fighting back. Brace yourselves." The humans moved in closer, coordinating with precision. One adjusted the energy pulses to confuse the core. Another stabilized nearby conduits, while the lead mechanic advanced, cutting tendrils one by one. The core pulsed violently with each severed link, sending vibrations through the floor. The aliens backed away in terror, unable to comprehend how small humans could face such a massive threat. They are saving the ship," one whispered, "with only their minds and hands." The mechanic reached the central mass of tendrils. It pulsed violently, black veins wriggling and trying to attach to everything around it. He could feel its awareness, a strange, intelligent presence that seemed to study him. He whispered under his breath, "I can do this. I have to do this." Carefully, he inserted a stabilizing tool into the core, sending a precise energy pulse to weaken the tendrils' grip. Sparks flew, and the core screamed, a high-pitched vibration that made even the aliens flinch. The tendrils thrashed violently, trying to reconnect. "Keep them busy," he shouted. "Don't let them regroup." The other humans responded instantly. Pulses, containment fields, and energy diversions worked in harmony. Slowly, the tendrils weakened, retreating from the core's surface. The mechanic guided his tool along the central mass, severing links carefully, making sure not to destabilize the ship. The core pulsed faster, like a heartbeat in panic. The aliens could feel it through the floor, a living, intelligent presence reacting to the humans' actions. "Almost there," the mechanic whispered, sweat running down his face. "Just a little more." Another tendril lashed out suddenly, catching the young engineer's arm. She yelped but didn't pull back. With a swift, precise pulse, she forced the tendril away and continued stabilizing the cluster. The aliens watched in awe. Humans did not hesitate. They adapted instantly, reacting faster than the parasites could. Finally, the lead mechanic reached the very center of the core. He paused, taking a deep breath. The pulsations were violent now, but steady. Carefully, he inserted the final stabilizing tool and activated the pulse sequence. The core screamed, a high-pitched vibration that shook the walls. Black tendrils writhed, twisting and coiling, but they began to release their grip. Slowly, the mass unwound, retreating into isolated clusters. Sparks flew, and the ship groaned as if exhaling after centuries of pain. The humans didn't relax. They monitored every conduit, every pulse, every cluster of parasites. Step by step, the core's defenses weakened, the last tendrils retreating into containment fields. The aliens could hardly believe their eyes. The humans had done it. They had faced the parasite core, the heart of the ship's corruption, and survived. More than survived, they were in control. One alien engineer whispered, they saved the heart of the ship, alone, without destroying it." The lead mechanic wiped his brow and smiled faintly. "The core is stable," he said. "We can start complete removal now, slowly and carefully." The young engineer nodded. "It's responding well. No signs of further destabilization." The aliens stepped closer cautiously, still in awe. They had seen humans act in ways no one else could. Courage, intelligence, and patience. They had underestimated humans, and now there was no doubt. These small, fragile-looking beings could face unimaginable danger and triumph. The humans continued their work, isolating the remaining clusters and removing the last tendrils. The ship groaned occasionally, but it was no longer in pain. The heart of the vessel, the core, pulsed steadily, stable and alive. Hours passed. Slowly, the engine room transformed from chaos to order. The parasites were isolated, the core stabilized, and the conduits functioning normally. The aliens watched in silent amazement as the humans finished their task. The lead mechanic finally stepped back, breathing heavily. "It's done," he said. "The core is safe. The parasites are contained. The ship, it can live." The aliens couldn't speak. They had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans, small, fragile, seemingly insignificant, had faced the heart of a dying giant and saved it with nothing but skill, intelligence, and courage. One alien engineer whispered almost reverently, "Humans, they are different, stronger than we imagined. Not physically, but in spirit, in mind." The mechanic looked around at his crew. "We did what we came to do," he said simply. "The rest, the ship will recover on its own now." Outside, the stars twinkled silently. Inside, the ship was alive again, its heart beating steadily. The humans had faced the ultimate test, confronting the core itself, and emerged victorious. The aliens finally understood something they had never realized before. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was resilient, resourceful, and capable of facing dangers that no one else could. And as the lead mechanic led his crew out of the engine room, he whispered to himself, "One step at a time, always one step at a time." The real battle, the confrontation with the core, was over. But the consequences of their actions and the awe they had inspired across the alien crew would last far longer than the echoes of the ship's groans. Human ingenuity had proven itself once again, and the galaxy was beginning to realize that humans were not to be underestimated. The engine room was quiet, though the hum of the ship's systems filled the massive space. The pulsating heart of the vessel beat steadily, a rhythm of life the aliens had almost forgotten existed. The core parasites had been weakened and isolated, but they still clung to the vessel, a stubborn reminder of the danger that had nearly destroyed it. The lead human mechanic wiped sweat from his brow and surveyed the scene. Around him, his crew moved carefully, checking conduits, monitoring energy flows, and ensuring that the parasites remained contained. The alien engineers hovered at a safe distance, wide-eyed, unsure whether to intervene or simply watch. "We've stabilized the core," the mechanic said quietly, "but stabilization isn't enough. We need to remove it entirely. The ship cannot fully recover until the parasites are gone." The aliens whispered nervously. "Remove it," one said. "The core, it is massive. Even weakened, it could destroy the ship if touched incorrectly." The mechanic nodded. "Exactly why we need to be careful. Precision, patience, and courage. Step by step, that's the only way." He turned to his crew. "Ready?" They nodded. Tools in hand, pulse generators calibrated, containment fields active. They moved toward the pulsating core, each step deliberate. The alien engineers watched in awe, unable to comprehend how such small beings could face such a massive threat. The moment the humans approached, the core thrashed violently. Black tendrils twisted and wriggled, trying to connect to the nearest conduits. Sparks flew. The ship groaned, a low, resonant sound as if warning them to turn back. "Steady," the lead mechanic whispered. "We've done this before. We can do it again, step by step." He inserted a stabilizing tool into the core, sending a precise energy pulse. The tendrils thrashed in response, some lashing out at the humans, but the crew had learned quickly. They dodged, redirected, and reinforced containment fields with calm, focused movements. "Keep it contained," the young engineer said, sweat on her brow. "If even one tendril reconnects, it could destabilize everything." The mechanic worked quickly, carefully cutting links between the core and the ship systems. Sparks flew, energy surged, and the pulsating mass thrashed violently. The ship groaned as if in pain, but the humans did not falter. "Almost there," the mechanic murmured. "Just a little more." A massive tendril shot out, nearly striking the mechanic. He ducked, barely avoiding it, and inserted the final stabilizing pulse. The tendril recoiled, and the other clusters seemed to hesitate. The humans had weakened the core enough to attempt the final removal. "Now," the lead mechanic said firmly, "step carefully, remove it completely." They worked in perfect coordination. Containment fields held the tendrils in place while the humans carefully cut energy links and guided the parasites into isolation pods. Sparks flew, conduits hissed, and the ship groaned louder than ever. It was a tense, dangerous dance, but the humans moved with precision and confidence. The aliens gasped. They are removing it, the core itself." Hours passed, each moment filled with danger. The core thrashed violently, sensing the humans' intent, but it was too late. Step by step, link by link, the humans severed the connections. The massive, pulsating heart was slowly lifted from the ship's system, guided by careful tools and precise pulses. Finally, with one last coordinated effort, the core was fully removed. The ship shuddered violently, then groaned deeply as the parasites inside it writhed helplessly, isolated from the vessel's systems. The containment fields held firm. For a tense moment, silence filled the engine room. Then the ship shuddered again, but this time the groan was different. It was calmer, steadier. The systems began to hum steadily. Lights stabilized, energy readings normalized. The humans exhaled, exhausted but triumphant. The aliens could hardly believe what they were seeing. The ancient ship, nearly destroyed by parasitic infestation, was alive again. The heart of the vessel beat steadily, free from the parasites that had drained it for centuries. The lead mechanic stepped back, looking around at his crew. "We did it," he said quietly. "The ship, it's alive, fully alive." The aliens moved closer cautiously, awe and respect in their eyes. We never imagined," one said. "No one could have done this but humans." The mechanic shrugged slightly, a faint smile on his face. "We don't always look strong. But we adapt, we solve problems, and sometimes that's enough." The alien engineers nodded slowly. They had witnessed courage, intelligence, and resilience like nothing they had ever seen. The humans had faced what they considered impossible and succeeded, not with brute force, but with ingenuity, patience, and fearlessness. The ship hummed steadily now, its systems fully operational. The pulsating heart glowed evenly, no longer racked by parasitic influence. It was as if the vessel itself were breathing again, alive and grateful. One alien stepped forward. "You saved it, not just the ship, but everything it represents. Your courage, your skill, it is remarkable." The lead mechanic smiled faintly. "We do what needs to be done. The ship is alive, that's what matters." The alien engineer looked at him carefully. "Humans, you are extraordinary, not just for your skill but for your spirit. You risked everything for a vessel that could have killed you, and yet you persevered." The humans quietly returned to their work, checking final systems and making sure all parasites were contained. Step by step, they confirmed every conduit, every energy flow, every panel. Nothing was left to chance. As they finished, the aliens began to celebrate. The ancient ship, a relic of their civilization and a symbol of their pride, had been saved. And it had been humans, small, fragile, yet fearless, who had done it. The lead mechanic looked around at the alien crew. "The ship is yours now, treat it well. It's survived centuries. It can survive centuries more, but never forget life, even in a ship, is precious. Respect it." The aliens nodded solemnly, understanding the depth of what had just occurred. They had called for help expecting clever engineers. They got humans, and in that they had discovered something far greater: resilience, courage, and a mind that could see solutions no one else could. Outside, the stars twinkled quietly. The massive ship floated calmly, its engines humming steadily, free from the parasitic threat. It had been saved by beings far smaller than itself, beings who had faced fear and danger and emerged victorious. The human crew prepared to leave, their mission complete. The aliens thanked them, offering resources and honor, but the humans simply nodded. Their satisfaction came from a job well done, from a problem solved against impossible odds. The lead mechanic paused, looking back at the ship. "One step at a time," he murmured. "That's how we fix things. That's how we survive. That's how we win." And as their shuttles departed, the alien crew watched in awe. The humans had not just repaired a dying giant. They had demonstrated the best of what humanity could offer: courage, intelligence, and the unshakable will to survive and protect life, no matter the cost. The galaxy, though unaware of this small victory, had gained something far greater. It had gained proof that humanity, though underestimated, could face impossible challenges, adapt, and triumph. The giant ship, alive again, moved steadily through the stars, a silent witness to the humans' incredible courage. and somewhere in the quiet hum of its engines, it seemed almost to whisper a simple truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The human mechanic leaned back in his seat, exhausted but proud. He smiled faintly. "Another day, another impossible problem solved," he whispered, "and the galaxy will just have to keep up." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly across the black sky. But inside, a small crew of humans had proven, once again, that even the greatest giants could be saved by the smallest hands, if those hands were brave, clever, and determined enough.